This is a second saddle. It's all been wire wheeled. I've milled a flat on this back portion, clamped the saddle to the mill bed on 4 ball bearings underneath these where the V-way would be, so it is give or take. There will be some wear in each bit, but as best as I can get it, it is where it should be. I've then milled it flat, so the idea being this plane is in line with this plane, which is now in line with this plane that I've milled here, and within a bit of wear they should all be together. I'm gonna bolt through this aluminium chair leg, as I like to call it. If you've watched the Denford video, you'll see I'm doing it the same way, just with a different scale. 2 bolts. I'll put an angle plate up the back and on here as well for a bit more rigidity. I'm going to line up along here, push that right in, which will give me, I'll be able to measure off the back edge of this rule, get the 2 in line, so that when the DRO scale is on, which is going to sit somewhere like that, it'll ride up and down and be parallel to each other as best as I can get it. This is the plan, so I'm now going to give that a go. It's been several evenings work to get to this point. There's a few images I will stick in of this being milled, one of the DRO scale being cut. There's plenty of videos on YouTube, so I won't cover that. But yeah, hopefully it'll work and I'll have a proper DRO. The whole lot was free, which is why I'm cutting them rather than buying the correct size, which I would 100% advise people do. After cutting this scale and knowing I've got to cut the other scale, I wouldn't recommend it. It's doable, but it's very stressful. I would buy the correct length, which down here a 200mm scale is going to be adequate on a Boxford lathe, same as Denford Viceroy. 200mm of travel there is plenty. 150 you'll get away with, but it's got, I think I had 150 on the Viceroy and it was slightly 10mm at the end I couldn't actually use of travel, but I never needed to. You would only use that if you was milling on it or something. So 200mm scale, and then on the back about 700 to 800 is ideal for the back as well. And this is on a 4-foot bed, not a 3-foot. So I believe I had an 800mm scale on the Denford Viceroy. So I'll crack on and I'll bring it back when there's something worth looking at. Right, so I've got the scale is pushed in and it's clamped. You can just see it in the picture. I've got 2 holes drilled here. I basically worked out where I wanted them, marked them. You can just see the scribe lines, maybe, yeah, there. I marked them both out, offered it up, drilled spotted the first one, drilled it, tapped it, screwed it on, lined it up, marked the second hole, removed it, drilled it, tapped it. All these have been deburred both sides, so we'll go in with a so these are tapped M6 for some cap heads I had, and as you can see I've decided to move it over so it is flush with the width of the ruler. There is no rhyme or reason for that other than I was being lazy, and that enabled me to just butt it up to the ruler or the scale, however you wish to pronunciate it, meaning it's kept parallel and lined up and instead of faffing around with measures and tapes and whatever else. Now, for the keen-eyed amongst you who know your Boxfords, moving it over has also enabled me to bring, when the tail stock comes in and the cross slide is on, it just touches this corner, the locking lever. So at some point I'll work that out and I'll just trim a little bit, whereas when it was back here we lost space here. So I've moved it over. I'll just have to trim a bit off, file it, make it look nice. Saturday morning, I figured I'd come out in the garage, see if I can actually get this back together. I've been motoring along. I spent loads of time. We milled flats on here, we fitted this, the DRO scale has been cut down. I've modified this is the clamping bar, what goes on the back side. I've put some grub screw holes in, I've milled it flat to take up all the play, so it mounts like that, so I'll have no rock in the carriage. Been wonderful. Except from, I go to fit the lead screw and there's a problem. So I've gone to fit the lead screw, pushed it in and realised, oh, why is it sitting at a funny angle? I've done all this work and I checked everything else other than this end. This is the spare saddle which came off the bed, which is a Model A. This is the original saddle, which is a TUD. This has been milled flat, 2 holes. This mounts with a grub screw underneath and there's a recess. Now I can get away with the recess being there, that's not a problem. But what I can't get away with is this is an unmachined surface and the lead screw doesn't fit. When you slide it in, if you do it up tight, it jams the lead screw at the other end against the bottom, but it's not at the right angle. What a plonker. You would have thought I would have checked that. I checked everything else and it's so obvious. I don't know how I missed it. Afternoon YouTube. So this morning we had the dilemma of it all going ping tong. This afternoon we're back together. We're all working well. Yeah. So there's a short clip and a couple of pictures I will insert now, and basically took around to see me mum's husband, and he put it on his tiny little lathe that used to belong to his grandfather, and we mounted this whole saddle to his compound, and then we lined it up and basically milled the face off with a fly cutter, just enough to give everything square. And we've gone from being lined up wonky and on the P when it was bolted up to it's now on and it all works smoothly. So this can all be fitted back together and I can actually fit the DRO properly, so I'm very happy. So the next thing is this cross slide. I'll bring you in a bit closer and show you what's happened with that. But that's the first modification to the completed carriage. I've changed the grub screws on the top of on the cross slide. So modification number 2 is this is the clamping strip for the back of the saddle, it clamps underneath. This one's not got too much wear in it, whereas this one had some wear, but because this bed is slightly worn, both of them let the saddle ride up. So what I've done here is I have milled off 2.5 mil from this side, which is the side that attaches to the carriage. So it'll sit like that. And then I've drilled and tapped a third hole, 8 mil, or I think that's 8.5 through there. So on the underside of the carriage there is a third place I made drill and tap a hole so it evens it out, and then I've put 4 M5 holes in, which these will then be how I set the adjustment, and then I'll do these up and set the adjustment on here, so these will keep it tight and they'll also stop it rocking. So I should end up with, you'll have to find a happy medium. Where's the between the wear that's on the way, whatever spot is the lowest, if you tighten it there, it's obviously not going to move. Whatever spot is the highest has got the least wear, which will be further back this end, I'd imagine. It'll then be sloppy on. So my plan is to tighten it on somewhere in the middle, and then when I fit these bolts I'll put springs under them, heavy duty springs, and that will allow, when it goes over a tight spot, yes the handle will get tighter, but this bar should then ride with it. That's my plan. Don't know whether it's right or wrong, but that's how my old Viceroy was, so I'm just copying what was there, and that worked well. So that's the second modification. So the whole lot is now going to go back together, and I shall carry on with fitting the DRO. So it's been a bit of a sidetrack project, but we've got there in the end. So we're bolted on here now, countersunk that end, bolt this end. This is the hole I had to re-drill. I haven't countersunk it, so I've just gone with a bolt, and then I've gone up a mil on the bottom of the alley plate, which will give me some, well, it's not going to give me much, but it'll be half a mil just to get this in line. This cross slide just squeezes on past the end reader. I think all I'm going to do is come off here with a piece of flat out to somewhere that clears down there, and then I'll come from one to the other and pack this end up. Well, I couldn't leave it alone, could I? All I got is 2 bits of angle, M5 bolts through the reader head, M5s, drilled and tapped, cut off underneath, ground flush, same here. It isn't pretty, but it's functional, it's solid, the whole thing is there, it's done. What I say, it's literally just an L section. I decided to come off the back here, it was the easiest way to do it. I will have some sort of cover bent that allows all this to travel underneath so that this stays protected. I am quite happy with it, and yeah, I'll just pull it back and you'll see it go. I am more than happy with that. More than happy. It has been a whole bunch of work getting it to this point. A whole bunch. What we're having to mill, the saddle. I mean, I've had several people that when I've said, oh yeah, this is what I'm doing, have said, well, why didn't you just place it across this side? I didn't want to lose access to the grub screws for the gib strip. I didn't want to lose access to the tightening screw for the compound slide, because you've got one here and here. And I also didn't want to lose 40mm plus whatever gap I had to leave of travel for the when the headstock comes up. So I've done it the same way as I did my Denford Viceroy, and I am more than happy with it. Like I say, there'll just be a cover goes over it just to protect this side, and other than that, there we go. So that is the end of part 1.